Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Oops. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm having a little camera problem. I shall not be long, but I'm going to fiddle for a moment. Oh well. Yeah, well, for some reason the main camera is not working. It's just fine. Hello, lovely to be with you. I had 5 days of retreat with 25 people. Some of you are here again. And it was a fine time. Zoom was a little bit, it's wonderful, but it was also a little yucky. One morning when I was doing interviews, somehow the people who were seeking me and I had a different link. So that was it was interestingly anxiety provoking. It's like it wasn't an emergency, but it felt pretty urgent somehow. So we will proceed on this camera on my computer.
Recording in progress.
Oh my, how familiar to be with you. I think I am going to do this. I'm going to grab this screen that you're all on and bring it over here on my computer and take the one for Facebook and put it here. And then I will tend to... Report sent. Where did you go? There you are. Okay. All right. So, a poem. William Stafford. Gotta move the microphone over. William Stafford. Being a person. Be a person here. Stand by the river. Invoke the owls. Invoke winter, then spring. Let any season that wants to come here make its own call. After that, sound goes away. Wait. A slow bubble rises through the earth and begins to include sky, stars, all space, even the outracing, expanding thought. Come back and hear the little sound again. Suddenly, this dream you are having matches everyone's dream, and the result is the world. If a different call came, there wouldn't be any world, or you, or the river, or the owls calling. How you stand here is important. How you listen for the next thing to happen. How you breathe. Be a person here. Stand by the river, invoke the owls, invoke winter, then spring. Let any season that wants to come here make its own call. After that sound goes away, wait. A slow bubble rises through the earth and begins to include sky, stars, all space. Even the outracing, expanding thought. Come back and hear the little sound again. Suddenly, this dream you are having matches everyone's dream, and the result is the world. If a different call came, there wouldn't be any world, or you, or the river, or the owls calling. How you sit here is important. How you listen for the next thing to happen. How you breathe. The meditator arises early, with a definite curiosity. What will this day bring? With a plan of a sort, and that is to be open to what happens. And to begin with, going to the training ground, going to the Dharma hall, joining with friends. Just as we brush our teeth before heading off into the world, so might we brush our mind. So might we come and sit comfortably upright. We might notice the in-breathing and the out-breathing. And intimately related, we might notice the fact of awareness of in-breathing and out-breathing. There is no need to make any effort to breathe. The body has taken that as its business a long time ago. We might remind ourselves of the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The world is unstable. Anicca is true. Nothing actually ever really exists in that it will stay the same. And so we increasingly understand what it is to take refuge in the Buddha. Not the person Gautama who lived a couple of millennia ago, though his life is inspiring. The Buddha within each of us, that which is awake, that which knows. I take refuge in the Dharma, in the way things actually are. In the small sounds, in the incredibly varied sensations throughout the body. In the fact of the wandering mind and the accompanying trance states. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. And so we find ourselves sitting. Let us be aware of the sitting body. And as a part of that sitting body, the coming and going of the breath. this awareness, this presence that knows in-breathing and out-breathing, also knows the wandering mind. For some, the wandering mind is very intense. True for most people at the beginning of practice and for some time. The antidote, the primary antidotes, I guess, for the restless mind, the wandering mind. The first antidote is mindfulness, to even know that it's happening. And then the second is concentration. And concentration is one-pointedness. One-pointedness of mind. And that happens one moment at a time, like everything else. If mindfulness of breathing is the home base, then when awakening in the wandering mind occurs, when mindfulness emerges, we quite intentionally target, they call it initial application. We target the actual sensations of in-breathing and out-breathing. And then we persist there. We make that subtle effort to keep the mind there. It's not tense. It doesn't require the tensing of any muscles. It's just an intention. I intend to be concentrated on the breath. And so we come home to this moment, willing to receive whatever occurs. Here, now. And in a way, if concentration and tranquility are the direction we would like to go, then we cultivate that. Concentration suppresses the hindrances. And in time, we develop a balance of all the enlightenment factors. Coming home to now. And basking, in a way, in the breath. If the mind persists in restlessness, we notice that. It's not a failing. It's not a mistake. It's just the way the mind is sometimes. we can notice that the breath breathes itself. This becomes obvious when we're lost in a wandering mind for a while and we don't die. One can notice that thoughts think themselves. Where is it that thoughts happen? There's an intellectual answer which says, oh, the brain. But what is your experience of where the thoughts happen? Is there any locality to that which knows thoughts? Similarly, is there any locality to that which knows the sensations of breathing? How does it happen that awakening occurs following a wandering mind or in the midst of a wandering mind? Is that something you do, or is it an act of nature? Hearing sounds. Where do sounds exist? Are they out there? Or do they arise in the same place as thoughts? Accept no one else's answer to this. Find your own experiential answer. In this sitting here, is anything permanent? Do you come to a resting point of satisfaction, and does it endure? And this sense of I am, this person in charge, is that solid, or does it change too? Please let us inhabit the body. Notice the contact of the feet with the floor or wherever they are. The thighs and buttocks against the chair, pressure. Notice temperature, the warm places, the cool places. Bare skin tends to be cool here. Receive the next breath or two very intimately. Noticing the life in the throat, in the neck. In the jaw, and the cheeks and the lips. In the eyes as sensations. And we can roll the eyes in their beautifully lubricated sockets. We could make them do, let's say, 4 or 5 clockwise circles. And 4 or 5 counterclockwise circles. And then letting this come to rest. In a few moments, the gong will sound. The first gong to call us to presence. The second is the initiation of the next stage of practice, which is perhaps a little speaking here, but then life. It's not the end of meditation for the day. And during the gong, please notice the intention to allow the eyes to open, to make the effort to open the eyes. And then operationalizing, making real, making active that opening of eyes. And notice what happens. For those with where everything is aligned, then seeing will happen. Seeing and detailed images for those whose sight is somehow not functioning fully. There might be light, there might be shapes. There's still the lifting of the eyelids. Lifting of the eyelids and the reality of light and vision. May all beings everywhere benefit from the merits of our practice. I want to acknowledge and thank my dear friend and colleague Jim Dalton, who has put in some long hours in the last few days helping with the retreat. Also my colleagues who came and kept the fires burning here on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Quite a great crowd, isn't it? I haven't even looked at announcements. Is there anything I really should announce, Jim? He says, passing the buck.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be doing a Qigong workshop next Saturday, and that information's all on portlandinsight.org. And I think Candle is doing something Sunday. It's the third. Yeah, it's the third Sunday. So that's her scheduled time. And Doug will be on tonight. That's about all I'm aware of right now.
The building update is that odds and ends are getting finished. Yesterday it was scheduled. I didn't get confirmation, but Gregory was in charge of it. The carpet cleaning company was coming in to do the downstairs, so that should be all done. And the next thing is to hire movers to move the stuff that belongs to our tenants down into their rooms. And we are on the brink of a temporary occupancy certification, which means they will begin to, they can begin to do their practice, which on our end means they'll begin to pay rent, which is a very helpful thing. In terms of the opening of the center to the grand opening, my hunch is it's going to now be the middle of February. We could possibly open sooner, but I am taking a 2-week vacation from the 5th to the 19th. And also we're headed into this COVID beast. I know several people, actually Sangha members, who have COVID right now. So it is extremely transmissible. Fortunately, they're not very sick. What's his name? Pete, our superintendent of the PNC construction, he's out with COVID. So it will come. So I'd like to know if you have anything you'd like to share.
Robert?
I hear had.
Robert, will you please post that poem you read on your blog or somewhere?
All right, I'll see if I can put it in the chat right now.
Oh, beautiful. And I must say, probably a lot of you don't know this, but I live in a town, Lake Oswego, where we butt against the west shore of the Willamette River, and somehow we have made a walkway with beautiful basalt columns that have been transplanted, and many poems by William Stafford are carved into these basalt columns, and they're just beautiful to walk upon. And they're poems like the one you read, and it's such a gift because he is such an extraordinary poet. So I want to invite you to come to the riverfront, read poems carved into basalt columns in Lake Oswego. I think it's called Riverfront Park or something like that.
I did not know that.
Actually, it's Foothills Park.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Kat.
There are other standing stones, or I call them the Stafford standing stones, and there's a whole group of them down by the river that have many poems on them. And then there's other places around Lake Oswego in the downtown area where there are other basalt standing stones with inscribed poetry.
Huh.
Good morning, Robert and son.
Is that Sandra? Hey, there you are. Hi.
Hi. So you know what? For the first time, I cruised your website to see what was there.
I see.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. And so one thing that I'm wondering is the meditation that you guided this morning is perfect for me. As you know, I've been struggling with the wandering mind. And, I want to be concentrated during my meditation. And what you said this morning is very helpful. And so if I were to go to your website, would I go under podcast or blog or other?
Oh, the morning. To repeat, to hear again what we did this morning.
Yeah, I know you recorded it. Where does that recording go?
If you use, there's 3 buttons. If you go to the left-hand most one, that will take you to YouTube, and there's the last 3 or 4 or 5 years of recording. So that's where you'd find it.
Okay, YouTube is the best way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it also exists on Facebook, but we don't have a link to it on Facebook. And on occasion, I request that the guided meditation be put in the middle column. There's a middle button, and that happens too sometimes. But I don't think I will do that with this one today.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to say is to the Sangha, the 5-day meditation retreat was very beneficial to me. And if you have an opportunity, if you have the causes and conditions to allow it, I would recommend signing up for the next one because it was so good, so beneficial. Thanks, you.
Sandra. Dave Mayer just put links to Facebook, I think, in the chat, and I put the poem in the chat. Multitasking. Multitasking, how to do everything a little bit worse. That was rude but true.
And here's behind me is a picture of the mini sangha that we had for 5 days. I couldn't resist it. I had to try to capture it in time. It was great.
This is Jan. Good morning. I was also at the virtual retreat for the 5 days, and it was so amazing and intense. And yesterday, when it was time to leave or come to the end of the retreat, was really worried about leaving and how that was all going to happen. But Robert carefully, thoughtfully led us through several opportunities, exercises where we gradually could let go of our time together, of each other. It was beautiful. And throughout the day, I kept coming back to it, of course, and wanting to be there with everyone again. But I just kept crossing my arms across my heart and saying Yashapur over and over until I could come back to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of got me through the day. Thank you, everyone that was there, and Robert, and Jim.
Thank you, Janice, for sharing. And here we are again, or still, or something. And thank you for the gift of your feelings. Imagine where we can actually be welcomed in community as we are.
Hi, Robert. It's Catherine. I had a question
Hello,
about
Catherine.
anicca.
Yes.
And could you just say that's another word for, or a word for just the reality of our universe, just what it is? And yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday, and I just thought, well, it's just what it is. And sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes it's sort of neither here nor there. But it also feels like I mean, it's bigger than this, but it feels like life force. Just, I mean, is it another word? I know it's bigger than life force because rocks aren't really life, but I mean, but isn't that part of what just life force is? Is that another word for it?
I don't know that I have that association with it. There's a bunch of synonyms that people use with anicca. Hang on, I got to adjust something here. Anicca, impermanent, contingent, subject to change. No, there's about 10 synonyms people use. So I'm not sure how life force fits with that, but clearly you have an association with it that.
I can feel like life in my body. When I met it, the quieter I get, the more alive I feel. I think that's something I noticed.
Yes.
And when I quiet down and feel the life, isn't that anicca? Because it's constantly changing. Your breath, you're walking.
I see a connection there now, which is that that when the mind gets quiet and you pay attention internally in the body, it's nothing but anicca. And
Yeah,
a concept
that's
we could put on it would be life force. It's like the living, the aliveness itself is anicca.
yeah. I decided it's time to embrace it because it's all there is. So, but yeah, that was an insight I had yesterday, or I don't know what, but a thought that came to my mind because I've been so caught up in the sadness of the change. And I was, no, that's all there is. That's it, is change.
Yeah, it's at a certain level. Here's me and my beloved dies, or I die, or here I am with something that I cherish and I lose it. That's a level of anicca where it's like, oh dear, oh that's, but
Yeah, that's sad anicca. But even just breathing together is anicca.
Ajahn Buddhadasa said, anicca blazes at us with the brilliance of a million suns.
Yeah, I think it started to sink in a little bit.
It's a miracle we can't see it. And so one of the then with that, as the mind gets more quiet, we could perhaps direct awareness into the aliveness of the right hand or the lips or whatever. And instead of using the breath, we just abide in that tingling, vibrating, that truth of anicca, which is just right there. And then the mind can get more and more and more engrossed in just that. And the wandering mind is further and further suppressed.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and we are actually watching the manifestation of life, and it is a great teacher of anicca.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that. That's good. Helpful.
Hi, Robert. This is Jill.
Hello, Jilly.
There. I have a thought or a question about materialism.
Materialism?
Materialism.
Uh-huh.
So I don't find I have much of a quest for possessions, that form of materialism. But I certainly do for experiences, and I certainly do for knowledge, knowledge of the spiritual kind, knowledge of so many kinds.
Yeah.
And even though I've been dabbling in meditation for so many decades, and I recognize that, it's not good to have any form of materialism. It creates a lot of mind noise and questing and suffering. I don't actually really feel like I'm getting any better at dealing with it. And and I just, so I'll get glimpses of how it just creates unsettledness and how it's really just a sign of not feeling enough, right? Haven't had enough experiences in my life. I don't know enough. I don't, I think there's a certain amount of terror that the end of my life will come and I'll hardly have experienced anything yet. And so I don't really know what the question is, because in a sense it's a big question, but how do I finally get off the merry-go-round of this materialism that, it seems like no amount of recognizing that it's not helpful. I'm still stuck in the merry-go-round.
Your fire is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's nice and cozy.
What's your temperature outside today in the Yukon?
Not too bad. It's like minus 20. But it was down to almost minus 50 a few days ago. We
my
had a
God.
week of incredible cold. Right? So we spent a lot of time very close to this fire.
Huh.
So it's warmed up.
Yeah, I'm having a tangential, very tangential association. Two children have come through my life. Actually, more than that. 7 children have come through my life in terms of stepchildren. But with my son Luke and my daughter Tara, all through their childhood, I had this sense that it's going too fast. I mean, sometimes it couldn't go fast enough. But all those thousands of pictures I took, and it's like I was trying to gather something, trying to get something that I could hold on to. And it turns out that none of it ever worked. But there was a sense of, I've got to, a sense of needing to grasp onto it. And it's grasping onto something that is not graspable. And we tend to do the same in our lives. I'm going to see this place and do this thing and eat that. And it's kind of the human condition, I would say. And so the other association that comes to mind is in the Four Noble Truths. The second ennobling truth is the truth of, it translates as thirst. It's tanha, it's the thirst for experience. And there's the desire for more pleasure and the desire for less pain. And since the moment is dissatisfying, is unsatisfied, there's the desire to become something different, to become a person who has done this and done that. And as I understand it, the resolution of that, or the addressing that, has to do in very typical insight meditation fashion of really observing the thirst, really observing the longing, and then sometimes restraining it. And also through the observing of it, and clearly, hang on, I can put my glasses back on. Felt good to get them off, but then I can't see. I lost you, Jill. Oh, there you are. Would you mind if I put you on large for the group so I can see you? Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just shrink back.
You can shrink yourself. Oh, I see now. There. Oh, that fire's so beautiful. You really got it cranked up too, don't you?
I do. No, I'm getting a bit hot.
You're already in touch with the dukkha of the wanting, are you not? Or you wouldn't be talking about it. And so it's through really being present with the dukkha of it that there comes the realization that, this is painful. It's painful wanting something all the time. And from that comes the experience of nirvana, which is the quenching of that wanting. And so there's the relinquishment of it. Well, I really want this, but I'm having a little greed storm myself, actually. My headphones are, they're falling apart. And I've sought out, and I could buy some new ones, and I decided I don't need new headphones. It doesn't matter if it's any headphones are going to be somewhat uncomfortable, but there's this persistent coming back to it. I want them. And I'm using it as a small opportunity to study the way the greed keeps, the wanting keeps coming up. And since it is something which is quite optional, it's very interesting to me how persistent it's being. And so is any of this making sense to you as a strategy you could use? It's more awareness of the dukkha of the thirst.
Yeah, I mean, I find I'm aware of the I'm aware of the dukkha component, but I still keep thirsting.
A proposal: go deeper into the dukkha. Take it as your meditation object.
Right. Okay. Try that. I try not to take it as the meditation object. I just try to push it away and ignore it.
Of course. Push it away, but pass the French fries. Yeah.
Right.
So I hope that's helpful, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it's one of the things that happens and happened on this, I know for a couple of people on the retreat, that when we set boundaries on ourselves, like no internet for 5 days, or I will when the group structure is to sit, I will sit, and so we surrender into that. Then we experience the thirst, the craving to do what I want to do. We experience that more and more clearly on a more and more subtle level, and the very process of craving something different becomes really obvious. And that's the way home.
Yes. At the last retreat, I was at a polyhawk with you. I remember escaping a couple of meditation sits to go kayaking amongst the whales that were off in the bay. And the allure was too great for me.
Well, you are such an extraordinary person of the wilderness. It makes sense to me that your longings would fall into that direction.
But it's the wilderness of the mind. If one can harness that,
Uh-huh.
it will create more, create more peace.
Are you doing any Sila Sojourn thing this coming summer?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a combination of those trips and my own.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in the planning phase. It looks like I'm going to be back up in the Arctic again, up on the north slope of the Yukon, up to the Arctic Ocean, rafting and hiking trip. So I'm very excited about that.
Jill takes
One can count on anything these days.
Right.
In the tourist field.
Right. Jill Pangman takes groups of people, could be you, into the far north from the Yukon, down the great rivers toward the north, and hiking trips. And if you ever want to be safe in the wilderness, she's your person. Sila Sojourns.
Anyway, enough about me.
I'm happy and you've done so much wonderful work for the world in that environmental hat of yours. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Robert. Nice to see all this.
Oops. Well, it's about 8:15. Anybody sitting with something you'd like or need to share?
Robert, this is Erin.
Hello, Erin.
Hi, I just got back from walking Molly to school, so if somebody asked this already, I'll go back and listen on YouTube. My question is that I just finished the retreat with you, the 5-day retreat, and I did notice quite a slowing down and a calmness. And I'm struggling a bit with my reintroduction into my regular life. And I'm noticing, while I really appreciate the slowed down volume of level 2 communication, just slower and gentler and mindful, that the communication I'm surrounded by in my day-to-day life isn't like that. And it feels like level 11. And yesterday it started to feel borderline aggressive. Just this emoting of other people at me. I mean, it wasn't aggressive by traditional standards. I'm wondering if you have some advice on my own practice to help me with that.
Yeah. Well, the first is to be sure to practice. That my teachers in India, almost universally, when talking about coming home, would say, well, practice at least 2 hours a day. Now, that's a lot. Aside from everything else, you're a mom. So that may be unreachable, and it's not like 2 hours is magic. I think what it's really important for me in my practice to have enough time to actually find a place of great peace, a great ease. Because I then get reminded, I reset my own calibration to that pace or that openness. And then there's also just having compassion for yourself and for your family and for the world because of the madness that we live in. It is totally insane. And you see it when you come off retreat. It's more apparent than it was before. And so you can also observe in yourself the disliking. I don't want it to be like this. I don't want these people around me. I don't want these people around me to be such emotional volcanoes. And they are. You have children. And sometimes spouses are similar. And so you're also encountering the dukkha of the world. So is that any help?
Yes. I'm hoping, at one point there was disliking, and I was talking to some of the moms at the playground and realized I just need to get out of here. I need to go not be in this space. And then I was breathing in, I'm breathing in, breathing out, I am breathing out. Is there something I can use in the moment of it instead of feeling like I need to just go sit for another hour? Because that's what I did yesterday when my husband started going. I'm going to go sit for another hour. But I'd already sat the whole morning and up until 2:30.
Uh-huh.
Looking for something to, in the moment of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
maybe it is breathing in. Maybe you have something with.
Well, there's these various things we can do. I'm going to go take my system and recalibrate. I'm going to calm myself down. But there's also moving toward it, which is to realize this is really painful. This is difficult. This is dukkha. This is the way of the world. And to just soften into it. This is unpleasant. Is that making sense? It's like turning right toward it and accepting, oh, it looks like, I really like that concentrated, tranquil place that I was in yesterday, but that's not here right now. And so how do I open to and accept and surrender? This is what's happening right now, and it happens to be rather unpleasant. And in a certain way, so what? There's this swing from pleasant to unpleasant all day long. And sometimes there are seasons of pleasant and unpleasant, which might last a conversation or an afternoon or a week or a year.
That helps. Thank you. I'll work with that.
Mm-hmm. Dave Mayer says, one thing I find helpful in that moment is to attend to the sensations in my feet. It's a very solid, clear place of sensation that is a kind of refuge from the swirl. Nessie says, for me to observe and letting go, as Ajahn Chah says, or Ajahn Chah's other teaching, which would be, this moment is like this. Because we can have an unenforceable rule, which means we can have dukkha in large helpings, that the people around us should be calm and quiet, and they should be attentive to my needs, and particularly you have children, and that's just not going to happen that much. And so to notice that unenforceable rule, I should be calm and quiet now. But, well, actually, I'm not. I'm resonating. I mean, I've struggled forever with the notion that if I were awake enough, the emotions of the people around me would not affect me. That's not true. Who was it? It was Murray Bowen. Would you raise your hand if you've ever heard of Murray Bowen? Dave, yeah. Murray Bowen was one of the creators of family therapy. And he posited a notion of the family emotional system. And that what he said was, it's too long to talk about the whole thing, but when you're going back to visit your family, when you're 55 or 60 years old and you go back into your family and you find yourself feeling the way you did when you were 3 or 4 or 5, and you find yourself acting in ways that are just not like the way you are. Well, it's because of anatta. And you go into that system, and the system really wants you to be like you always were. And so he has a notion, I've shared this with many people going back on a, quote, home visit. And the plan is to do one thing differently. And when I went to visit my parents, I did some things differently. Like every afternoon, I'll go for a run. I'm going to take an hour away. And I would say that I was going, and my mother would start crying. Oh no, you're only here for 3 days? How can you? And I was like, God, I got to get out of here. And so I would go, and then I'd become sane again while I was running. And then I get back into the system. On one of the last times before the system crumbled, third to last or so, I went and the second day or early, and I learned I could not be in that system for more than 3 or 4 nights at most. But on the second day, my pelvis locked up. It's like if you think of your pelvis and you lock it back, and that's how my father's pelvis always was. And he walked kind of oddly, and I thought, oh no, I've hurt my back, and I did all these stretches, and I thought, I got to get some body work as soon as I get home. And I flew from Montreal to Toronto or Chicago, I forget which, and then Portland. Before the first stop, it was completely gone. It was psychogenic, and exactly the same thing happened the next 2 times I went back there. Within a day, my pelvis locked up. That's the family emotional system. So we're going to be affected by the emotions of the people around us. And how do we continue to love ourselves and love them? And to recognize that there are powerful causes and conditions that are affecting us, and most of them are not conscious. There's Molly. Just checking, Mom. Piglet sidled up to Pooh and said, Pooh? What? Said Pooh. Oh, nothing. I just wanted to be sure of you. Well, I need to go soon. Shall we go out on a song? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. May all beings receive all blessings. And please unmute if you wish for our joyful cacophony of sound. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Michael.
Have a lovely, lovely day, dear friends. May mindfulness prevail.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Hi, Tamara.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks, Robert.
Hattie. Bye, Jill. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Keep the fire burning, Jill.
Yeah, will do. Nice to see everybody.
Bye, Denise.
Goodbye, my friends.
Bye, Sandra.
I'm invisible, but I'm here.
Goodbye. Oh, hi, Shelley. Sherry.
Yeah.
Thanks for speaking up. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to quote see you here.